My name is William Holder. I run the William Holder Realty team. We are a group of realtors. Our office is in St. David's, but we do Delaware, New Jersey, greater Philadelphia region. I've sold homes an hour and a half away. It's in BA, New Jersey or Delaware. We'll look at it. Why do we run this group? I am a real estate investor myself. I started investing in 2017, 2 years after I went full time as a real estate agent, which nightmare stories about, but it's gotten me to where I am today. So I'm happy, and it's my retirement plan. You know, I real estate agents or self-employed people don't have a quote unquote 401k. This was always my 401k. How do I get enough assets so that someday I can retire? And the reason I run this group is to help other people do what I'm doing, at least show them what I've learned so far. Learned everything, but I've gotten pretty far, and I hope to convey that information. Two, I also hope for it to be kind of an organism on its own. We feed off each other, we find each other deals, we help each other win. And as it grows, it becomes its own community. There are great communities all over the country. There's hundreds of them. So join the Facebook pages, join all of the groups. You might find deals in areas you didn't think you'd find deals in from being a member and coming to our community. And that's essentially, what I want to accomplish with you guys is teach you how to invest, get you started, help you build, and hopefully we get to do deals together someday, either from a I'm your realtor perspective or from a let's partner up on joint ventures. Because I've said this before, but every property I own with someone else. All of my LLCs are partnerships. I own my house with my wife. I don't own anything by myself. So that's just how it is. And how can you connect with us? Just call me. But no, we're on every platform. The Meetup board has a lot of connections to a lot of different grids, and feel free to message me. Happy to give you guys my cell phone or my email and social media, Instagram, all of that. I guess I kind of said a little bit about this already, but I have 61 units now through various LLCs, different types of properties, different areas, all in Pennsylvania. I'm not spread out to other states yet, just because I don't know, I don't have the comfort level for it yet, but maybe someday. My niche has been the BRRRR process. So from the beginning, and anyone wasn't here last month, BRRRR is buy, renovate, rent, refinance. From the beginning, that's been my game, because I didn't start in this industry with a lot of money, and still don't, to be honest with you, but I'm getting there. And for me, it's like, how can I reuse money as much as possible to build my portfolio, right? And if you have a lot of money and you don't have to go the BRRRR route, good, I'm happy for you. It's much easier ways to do this. BRRRR route isn't a very easy way, and it can be very stressful, and it's very difficult to find deals, but it's repeatable, it's scalable, and it still gets you to the end goal with much less of your own money in the game. So that's always been my niche, is the BRRRRs. I do flips, probably I've done 10 to 15 flips in the last 7 years or so, or six years. So not a ton. I don't love flips. I've said that before, for tax reasons. To me, it's not a retirement plan. It's just another job. If you're using flips, like what I do is I use flips to fund my BRRRRs. So if you're using it to invest in other things, that's your play. That's a smart play. That's how you get to your end goal. If you're doing a flip to do another flip, it's a job. It's a job, right? So it can be a very profitable job, but it's a job. So to me, I use every dime I make off of flips go back into my LLCs to buy more rental properties and hopefully buy them as a BRRRR. What am I looking for? So personally, I'm looking to scale. Everything I did was single family, duplexes, triplexes, and then I did a couple 5 units, and then I jumped up into the 10 unit in Pottstown, and then Jude just helped me close on an 11 unit in Clairton, PA, which is out by Pittsburgh. And for me, like my taste is that now going on. So like I don't, as long as that goes the way I expect it to go, which is another burr for me. I bought it cheap. I'm putting money into it. I'm raising all of the rent, and I plan on it being worth 25% more than I have in it when I'm done and getting all my money back. It's the same process just over and over again. Um, Once I'm done with that one, I'm looking for something like that or bigger. So that's what I'm looking for. And I hope to benefit from this group. One, just to teach you all how to invest. It's been great over the years. People I've met with that are now real estate investors that have 10, 15, 20 units that do flips. Like, I meet up with them for beers all the time. We're constantly talking. That's what I talk about. I mean, I talk about real estate all the time. My wife hates it, but it's all that's on my mind, right? So those are my friends, those are people I associate with. That's what I want around me. So what I hope to get from this group is strong investor like-minded friends that want to do what I want to do, which is buy a ton of properties. So Jude, yeah, you gave a quick intro already, but we'll recap that when Jude gets started. Important legal stuff. Please don't sue me. Anything I tell you here is really just for your own use. If there's videos, pictures, your voice is recorded, we might use it on our YouTube or whatever. Anything we tell you, it's just trying to share as much information. So, don't hate me if you lose money on your first deal. All right. So before we do that, we'll do quick intros in the room. Start over here.
Yeah, I'm Frank, and this is Allison, my fiance. So we have a house in Wallingford now, and that actually meant when we got together, I moved out of my house in Philly. So we now rent out the house in Philly and are kind of looking to scale up as far as maybe another primary living spot, but have a couple rental incomes coming in. So we'll start with about looking to get like two single family homes, and then kind of work our way up from there.
Everything you said. So more than a call. I would always go for the beach house rental.
Yeah, that's it.
It's a debate, but yeah, that's what we're kind of looking for. Is like another maybe renting out my house once we're ready to move out of that, or buying the property investment.
Nice.
Mayflower Zelensky. Just here to learn.
Sure.
Want to get away from the stock market and get into hard assets, so like 401k that way.
Right.
Just see around. Yeah, just like mine did, and same interest.
Okay. Do you have any properties now?
I just own mine now.
You own your house. Okay. Great. And that's where most people come here. Great.
Well, I'm Carol. This is Mark. So we're partners, and we did one like condo flip. So we recently just got another condo through like the auction process. Yeah. So we're actually figuring out like financing like possibilities, whatever. So we'll work on that. And I think we're gonna try to do the BRRRR method if it's possible. And we'll see how it goes.
Awesome. I love that you guys did that. I've gone, I don't know, maybe 2018-ish. A buddy and I did we looked at the sheriff sale list and we found the potential winners and we drove to them, made sure they don't think we're going to fall over. And then we did title searches on them. Then we went to the sheriff sale, and this was all Delaware County. It was in Philly, and we went to the sheriff sale with like three. We're like, we're gonna make offers on these three, and man, it was a slaughter. There was groups, contingents of investors that were way more experienced than we were, and they were just targeting areas because they had like a crew of guys just rotating houses, and I'm like, we can't compete against this. And I backed off of the sheriff sale ever since, but definitely something I'd like to get back into eventually. Yeah, at the media courthouse. Yeah, it's weird. Like there was a group of guys that was just bidding on Sharon Hill and then Upper Darby, and and they knew what they're looking for, their renovation costs, because a lot of those towns, like the houses are all the same, right? Like the row homes are all the same build. Sharon Hill, Glen Olden, like they're all built at the same time. It's like a rectangular box and copper piping, and it's all the same. So if you know what it costs you to reno this, it's easy to bid. Um, and most of them aren't falling over, because if one's falling over, all the rest are, right? Uh, so that's great. So you found a deal, right? First part of being a real estate investor is got to find a deal. And some of the other classes we've talked about how to find a deal. We had a wholesaler here. We've talked about the BRRRR method. We've talked about how to renovate properties, but you've picked a location, you've honed in on it. You're talking to a realtor, or you're a realtor yourself, or you're just searching on Zillow or PropStream. And you're like, you know what? This area is in my price point. I'm going to search here until I find a house. It's in my price point, and then I'm going to go after it. And you did. You found a deal. You got it under contract. You know what it'll cost to renovate the property and what it's worth after the renovation, right? Because you've done your homework. You know what the ARV of these properties are. You've looked at a bunch of these properties with your contractor, and maybe your contractor didn't meet you there, but you did a video or a FaceTime and you got like a ballpark estimate from them. Now what? Okay, so we're going to talk about possible ways to buy or fund the purchase of your deal, right? Obviously, easiest way is cash, right? Cash is king. If you have a bunch of cash, go buy a property. And personally, it's what I would put my money into, right? I'm like you said, I'm not a huge fan of the stock market. Do I have money in the stock market? Sure. But, I saw it crash before, and who knows what it's ever going to do. I guess it's controlled, but we have no control over that. With real estate, I can go up and touch it. It's mine. I own it. And generally, you see it go up over time. So personally, I prefer to put my cash into real estate. Cash is the easiest. So if you're buying something cash, you don't have to worry about appraisals, underwriting, credit scores, tax returns, shed tickets from 5 years ago. Like that just came up on this loan we were doing. I had a shed in Wallingford at my old house, and a neighbor, I guess complained that they saw I put a new shed in. Literally the same shed I had before, just brand new, wasn't falling over. And the township came out and they measured it, and it was 6 inches too close to the fence, was their complaint. It was supposed to be 18 inches and mine was 12 inches. So I'm like, you guys really gonna make me move this thing 6 inches forward because somebody complained? And he's like, yeah. And I just, I was like, I like, out of spite, I'm like, I'm never gonna call you ever again, and they gave me a ticket, and it turns out those tickets show up on your like criminal background. So yeah, so a $50 ticket turned into something I had to get off anyway. But so I forget where I was going with that. But anyway, yeah. So yeah, yeah, things. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So yeah, it's just, but that's the stuff that comes up in a mortgage. You never know what could happen, right? I mean, what if you lose your job halfway through, or uh, something you didn't know from someone like did a they hacked into your credit and opened up an AT&T account. All of a sudden, that's on your credit. These are all things that play into getting financing. Cash, you don't have to worry about any of that. So cash is king. It's the easiest. It's the cheapest. The problem is, does it make sense tying up all of that money into one project, right? Your money can work faster if you leverage it. So if you have $100,000 property and you're spending $100,000 to buy it, you're using 100% of your money to buy that one property. Whereas you could buy 5 properties with 20% down, 5 $100,000 properties with 20% down. And yes, you have mortgages on those properties, but that's the bank's money and your tenant's paying it off. So are you really taking that much risk is the question. So for me, I personally prefer to leverage lenders, right? Because there's a ton of benefits with having investment properties. A lot of that comes in, especially when you're self-employed. the tax benefits. You can depreciate your rental properties over 27 years or whatever. And the less you can show you make on that property, the less you have to claim. So if you're claiming a large chunk in rents versus what you're getting after you pay all of your expenses, your principal, your interest, your taxes, your insurance, your capital expenditures, your property manager, your vacancy reserves, after all of that, you're just claiming a small gain. It's much easier to show less income on that property. So I think there's a benefit to having loans, right? The other benefit to having loans is loans aren't lent money isn't taxable in most cases that I'm aware of. So if you have a property, I'll give you an example. I bought a property in 2018, a row home in Southwest Philly. We fixed it up, burnt it out. At the time, it appraised for 100, so I had a $70,000 loan on it. In 2021, I wanted to buy a duplex with that same LLC, and I just went to a bank and had them reappraise the property I bought in 2018, and now appraised for 150 because the market appreciated that much. I could get a loan for 75% of that. So I'm taking out the difference between 75% of 150 and what I owed on the current mortgage, which my tenant has been paying off, not me. And that money that I'm taking isn't earned income. That doesn't show up on my tax return. So I could have just taken that and go to the casino and put it all in black and it'd be game over, right? But instead I used it to buy another property. That's the game. You're encouraged to borrow, and for that, they don't tax you on it. So another plus of leveraging properties, right? And then a good example I use of this is maybe like 3 years ago, I had a guy call me, older guy, did really well over his life. He would, whenever he had enough money, he would go buy like a property for $10,000 or $20,000 in North Philly, or these pockets that were really cheap, and rented them out, owned them all cash. And he's older now, he's retired, and he just wants to cash out. They were all probably worth, he had 10 of them, they were all probably worth $100,000. And I said to him, he was like, I want to sell all these. I'm like, talk to your accountant first. Like, if you sell all these this year, you might get smacked by the IRS, capital gains on all of these. So maybe do it over. And he's like, that's a great point. I never thought of that. And I'm like, I'll be honest with you, man. Like, if you had just bought with these with 20% down throughout your life, you probably have 40 properties now instead of 10, and the tax hit wouldn't be as bad because you depreciate it over time. But he got the point, and I just think it makes more sense to scale, use your cash wisely versus putting it all into one property. So cash, right? Home equity, stocks, other investments are good options, but might require you to sell or liquidate investments rather than keep it. Home equity. So the property I'm in right now, I spoke about before. It was the first property I ever bought in 2017. Turned into a nightmare. Went way too big, way too fast. That's why I always tell people when they come to me, start small, start simple. The smaller you start, the less damage you could take if it goes downhill. Start with a knockdown, it's probably gonna knock you down, and it was. But the plus side was when I wasn't able to sell it at the end, and I just ended up moving into it, which is why I live in Swarthmore now. I finished in 2020. I moved into it with appreciation. The value went up because COVID happened, and everyone's value went up. And I was able to take a line of credit on it and use that to accelerate my investments. And me using the BRRRR process, take it out, pay it back, take it out, pay it back, right? So if you have home equity, that's a great way to invest, right? If you have equity in your home, get a line of credit, don't get a fixed loan, because line of credit's like a giant credit card, basically, and you can make cash offers with it. So if you have equity in your home, it's great. Is there risk involved with that? Absolutely. What if the market goes south and your house that was worth, $300,000 is now worth $200,000, but you owe $275 on it because you leveraged all the equity? So be cautious of that. You don't want to put yourself in a negative equity situation, especially on your primary. That's something to be cautious of. Stocks and other investments, yes, there are ways to leverage your stocks to purchase homes. A lot of the ones I see, one I learned about recently was not recently, like 7 or 8 years ago, a friend of mine told me her dad gifted her a whole life insurance policy to either pay for college or purchase a home to live in during college. And I went, what? So I went to my insurance guy and I'm like, hey, what's this? And he said, yeah, whole life policies. You could put, whatever your premium is every month. And at a certain point, you max out. And then it becomes essentially a line of credit you could borrow on, and you pay dividends back to yourself. So she borrowed that money to buy the home she lived in during college and paid interest back to herself, owned that house outright, and then after college kept it as a rental. And that's how she was able to. So I have a whole life policy on my kid. I have it on myself. I think it's great. You have to start soon. It's not something quick. You have to put the time into it. I've heard of these universal whole life policies where they can accelerate that. It sounds like a scam. I don't know though. I've read a lot about it. It seems like a scam, but whole life policies are one way to leverage insurance to invest. And a lot of people do that. A lot of people that are private lenders are lending off of their IRAs, their insurance policies, equity from their properties, their stocks, like they are fine. And to me, being the lender is like the easiest part, but it's the hardest to get to, right? You don't start off as the lender. A lot of people end up as the lender at the end because they've amassed enough funds that they get to sit there and have people bring them deals, right? When you're the lender, people are coming to you to ask you to borrow money on deals they've already put the work in to find. And you're just collecting interest, and hopefully it goes great. If it doesn't go great, well, you foreclose on it, and now you own equity, and now you own a property, right? So if you're a private lender, that's where you see a lot of guys end up in their career. So IRAs, self-directed IRAs, these are complicated. I've spoken to a lot of accountants about them, and still don't get it. But it's not my area of expertise. But you can borrow off of a self-directed IRA with enough cash for the entire project. I just don't understand, my IRA, I'm only going to put $6,000 a year in. So what point am I ever going to have enough money in that thing to, am I going to have to wait 20 years to make this thing viable? That's not my area of expertise. I don't know if anyone here knows any more about self-directed IRAs, but there's a class. One of the grid topics is on that, and I will have an accountant for that one. So, because that's, yeah. All right. Friends, family, and partners. So this to me is huge. This is what's made me as an investor, right? Like I said, I partner on everything. If I don't have enough to do a deal, I partner up with people and we find a way to get it done. And that's helped me scale over time. Best to partner with people because that are reliable, that have personal vested interest in not screwing you, like you're really close friends. To me, that's how I like to partner, is with people I know, people I can trust. I don't have partners with people all over the country. It's mostly people in my sphere, good friends, past clients that became friends, family members. You're splitting everything. So, and partnerships can work different ways. You can set up a partnership in the sense that you are borrowing the money as like a private loan from them and you're paying them interest, or you're paying them a percentage of the deal when it's done. There's many ways to structure it. Or you can actually form an LLC with them and you each have a percentage of that LLC. And that's personally one of the ways that I like to do the most. I do have family members, friends that are private lenders that will lend loans. So I'll go to them and say, hey, I'm buying this property. It's $100,000. I need 25% down plus my holding and my closing costs. So that's like 40 grand, right? Give or take. Give me a secondary for that loan. So now I'm buying a house with none of my own money, right? I'm buying it using 75% from the first bank and 25% from a private lender. You can only do that with non-conforming loans. So you can't go to buy your primary residence with a conventional or a FHA loan and borrow a significant amount of money from a person. That's considered a gift, and those have to come from specific parties. So, and there's rules around that. But with non-conforming loans, commercial loans, private hard money, they don't care where you get the money. They just want to know you have the money, right? So, for the most part. So that is one way. And what I just mentioned is if you ever see those YouTube videos, you want to learn how to invest with no money down, here, spend $20,000 to come to our seminar. That's what that seminar is. It's just borrow money. They're telling you to borrow other people's money. I just saved you 20 grand. Like that's what that is. They're telling you creative ways to find and use other people's money. Right. So that's essentially what no money down investing is. It's borrowing from multiple parties to get the job done. And it's great if you have that opportunity. And you're like, well, why would you pay interest to one bank and interest to a private lender? Well, if the numbers work, they work, right? And at the end of the day, you're getting a property. So what do you care if you're paying 8% to one and 13% to another? At the end, when it's refinanced or when it's sold, are you making money? So numbers work, they work. I really don't care so much about the rate. It's what the numbers do within that rate. And that's why people are like, well, during COVID, people are like, you're still buying properties? Yeah. And then now the rates are super high. People are still buying properties? Yeah, the numbers work. Yeah, that's all that matters, right? So just run your numbers. So when you're partnering with people, run your numbers, make sure they make sense, make sure the holding costs make sense because you're paying now 2 loans essentially. And make sure, the deal's worth doing. You don't want to do a deal with a friend or family member and you say you'll split the earnings with them and then you lose money, then you're splitting a loss with them, right? They're not going to love that. So that's, something to consider. All right. So here's where we get into loans. And that's where I'm going to let you jump in. This is his expertise.